Good day everybody and welcome to Kampala-Road. Today is July 2019 update. Before I start with the update, something important to say, and it's a big thank you. Like all other YouTubers who reach a milestone, I have. And just recently, or at time of filming I should say, I was at 1,111 subscribers. Which, I don't really know what to say. Apart from the thank you very much, etc., etc. Somebody emailed me and said you've reached 1,000 subscribers, and I was quite surprised. I think that's an understatement, actually, to think people like to watch what you produce, I suppose. So what does one do when you reach this sort of milestone? And I've subscribed to a lot of people, and like me, they're very happy when they reach, big figures, or to me they're big figures anyway, over 1,000 subs. It's difficult for me to do a giveaway at this juncture. Where I live, if I put it in the post, it would never probably get there, whatever I decide to do. So, having thought about this, I will do a giveaway when I'm nearer the time to next visiting the UK. And that will allow me to be in the UK to post what I'm going to give away. And just to be a little bit different, it's not going to be anything from the railway. It is going to be something from this country. A small item from Uganda, which is a bit of a novelty. So I hope that will be acceptable when the time comes. So watch this space, and next time I travel, or a little time before, we will do a giveaway from Kampala-Road. But again, 1,111 subscribers, fantastic stuff, despite my crappy baseboards. Very much the theme of this month's update is British Rail, back to the good old BR, but the more colourful liveries, a little less BR blue. I'll crack on, because I have actually done something this time. First, I've been doing some weathering. I'm really enjoying it. I may be absolutely rubbish at it, but I'm being careful what I weather so not to ruin the good models. But I do enjoy it, and I've brought quite a few paints back with me from my last visit to the UK. And this was the subject of my last monthly update. I was changing the refueling point to a TMD, a small TMD, and it looked pretty plasticky, so I have been weathering. And this is a mixture of, again, powder paints and some sleeper grime. I've actually got some sleeper grime. Everybody talks about sleeper grime. I've actually got some. And other acrylics that I've messed about with from the kids' paint kit. But I've made it try to look a little bit daggy. Underneath the vents, the dust you can see coming out, or whatever, the exhaust. I did give it a go on the exhaust blast on the front. It didn't work, so I took that off. Not quite finished, it probably needs another coat, but it was started. I also put a sign up, Kampala-Road, TMD. It didn't look right, so I've just stuck with the BR signage. This is probably a better angle to see dropped oil, various people standing there month after month doing nothing. The ballast I made a little bit of a mess of, actually. I did it too thick, and I used Uganda's equivalent of polyfiller for the hard standing, which is not finished. You can see just inside the shed there, it's not really finished. But like all things I do, I get a bit bored of doing it and move on to the next thing and then come back months later to finish off. But the real thing I wanted to do was make the shed look a little bit dirty and grimy. And I think I've achieved that, although probably needs a little bit more. So back to weathering, very dangerous this for me. I took this victim, and good timing. The locomotive is a Vitrains chassis with a Lima body, which is why the red lights are a little bit odd on this locomotive. Anyway, I took my time doing this, trying to improve what I have done in the past. I actually looked at pictures of the actual locomotive, and Lima moulded these in the yellow plastic, so that's why it was a little bit bright. And I've tried to tone that down by giving it a sort of dark wash over the yellow areas, then making it look a bit stripy and dirty, and the underframe, which is my favourite bit to do because you can't go wrong on that really, making that look grubby with some oil and diesel stains around the tanks. As I said, I'm choosing the cheaper locomotives so I don't stuff up the better ones. One of the things you have to do with Lima locomotives is paint the inside black because of the light bleed issues. But I'm fairly pleased with that. Given it's all cotton buds and brushes, it makes me want to buy an air gun, or a spray gun. Getting one here is a bit difficult. We'll see. So I'm not going to attempt any of the more expensive models before I get an air gun. But anyway, she's fitted with sound, she's dirty, and runs like any Vitrains extremely well. I'm into wagons at the moment. I've discovered the beauty of wagons, and these are some others I have been weathering. PGA wagons, I believe they're called. I have no idea what PGA means. Haven't looked it up either. But it is paint and weathering powders, and then I sprayed it with matte varnish, and it changed the colours completely. Horrifying stuff. The Yeoman one is a bit overdone. Also, the Yeoman sign looks terrible from Lima. But I'm quite happy with the bauxite ones. I'm buying these for a reason, which I'll come on to later. Looking at photographs of the 121, they weren't particularly dirty. On the cab sides, the body sides I should say, but the undercarriage, like anything else, was. So I copied some of the undercarriage detail from the Dapol 121. This is a Hornby one, cheapo one, and then did the underframe dirt, etc, etc, and didn't overdo the dirt on the paintwork. Overall, okay, I guess. I'm fairly happy with it. Practice makes perfect. I'm actually waiting for when those Dapol ones drop below £100, which they're sneaking towards now. This is another area long overdue for some attention, and I've started, not finished. I was fed up with a piece of wood that the trains always disappeared underneath, so I stuck some Pico girder bridge plastic bits along the wood, and I've started doing some brickwork around the edges to make it look half reasonable. I followed the lead of some other people I watch with the getting away from the grey girder, and I painted mine green. I've seen Tony Northeastern, I think, is blue, and I've seen a couple of other guys who are blue, cream, whatever. This has come up quite well. I've actually weathered it as well. I put weathering powder on the dry green paint, then again sprayed it with matte green varnish, matte clear varnish. It didn't change the colours too dramatically. I'm quite happy how it came out, and that has really tidied up that area of the layout where trains sort of go along a very long straight, disappearing under a bit of wood. On the other side of that bridge is a tunnel entrance I've decided to do, and I've been working on that area too. Got little kids there playing around, dangerously close. But I use the Hornby tunnel entrances, and okay with that, I guess. They are a little bit high, that one, which I pointed out before. A little bit high for what I wanted for, but it seems to work. Not sure if points are prototypical going through a tunnel. To the left-hand side of that double entrance is a single entrance for entry to the steam loco yard. Very quickly, I am putting up a couple more gantries. That's one at the entrance to Popple Cutting, as there is some point work at the end of the cutting. Right, with the removal of the fueling yard to make way for TMD, that has been moved over to the far corner there. So we'll take a march over there and have a look. Alright, so as I said, it's black plastic, and I sprayed one silver and sprayed all the pipework silver, which is in reality what a lot of companies do. I've left one black. Again, some tanks are left black, some tanks are painted silver to reflect the heat. Bit of fencing around there, you can just see through the fence some old flanges lying on the ground. Electrical box. My 50-ton tanker there is weathered. Thank you, AD Pullen, for that. He sent me that while I was in the UK, and I weathered it. He sent me a couple, and I've weathered another one which I made a complete hash of, so it's not on the layout at the moment. Now, the concrete surround is actually a Metcalf cardboard. Oops, excuse me. I may come to regret that, but I've used Metcalf. Because it's already beginning to curl up in the corners, just here, which is why there's some strategically placed weed, which the poor guy is trying to dig up, so I'm not going to let him. But yeah, I may come to regret that. It seemed like a good idea at the time, maybe not. Closer view at the end. I put what looks like gravel, it's actually ballast at the end. I've got a few of these buffer lights. I know in the 70s they weren't there, or they certainly weren't double red, I don't think. But anyway, I'm not going to cut them in half. So again, it's come out okay, and just have to wait and see the test of time to see whether that cardboard will last. Yes, the 58 is about to leave. She has work to do. There are 4 new arrivals to lay out since the last update, of which I'm going to focus on 2 on this update, and this is one of them. I was not expecting any problems with this loco. but my ability to buy faulty, crap, useless product has come back to haunt me for 2019. Right, this was brand new, and I put a decoder in, program on the programming track, put it on the main track, applied power, and puff, the decoder went up in a cloud of smoke, and there was momentarily a loud buzzing. I originally thought it might have been the PCB. Now I know these logos are good. They come along, in the same sort of DNA as the 50, the 31, and a couple of others. But immediately I had to pull her to pieces. And what it was the worm drives on both axles. They were seized solid. The worm drive goes into a bearing on this side and on this side of the gearbox, and here. All four were seized solid. The grease that had been used had congealed and wouldn't allow the motor to turn. So once I'd found that problem, I thought I was home and dry. I pulled everything off, took off the old grease, used Pico Super Lube and some Vaseline, put it all together again and put it on the track with a new decoder. Off she went, but not very well. These locos are very good. I know that from the 31s, the 50s, and a couple of others that Hornby made back in the 2000s, and the designers carried through. So there was something else wrong. And what I found was the front axle here and the front axle here were not picking up. So she was basically an 8-wheel pickup locomotive. The pickups were just not touching and were bent and ski-whiff. So once I've done that, she was off and away. Anyway, I'm used to it, as many of us are, so off she goes, and she's not too bad now. Now the second loco I had problems with, the steamer. And I admit I jumped on the bandwagon and bought this with rave reviews from various influential sites. Just poking her nose out there. Let's get her out. I was so disappointed when I got this. Now I bought this 6 months ago, or 5 months ago actually. Put her on the track. She didn't work. I put her back in the box, embarrassed, and on the top shelf, where she's been collecting dust ever since. This is the Oxford Rail N2. I'm sure she needs no introduction. When I got her, I put a Hornby decoder in, and she stuttered and started down the track, and I just couldn't get her to run, whatever I tried. I don't like pulling these locos apart when they're new. 6 months ago I was pretty fed up with the hobby and the amount of faulty goods I was getting. I put her quietly back in the box and on the top shelf, as I said. So I saw her on another layout I was watching, and I thought, time to give it a go. So I pulled her apart, as one does these days. And there were various problems, and the one thing I just don't understand with manufacturers is why they rely on this touch mechanism to transmit power from the wheels to the motor. The Bachmann 108 is a horrendous example of the bogies having to touch various bits and pieces to transmit power to the PCB, and then the motor on the 108 also touches pickups from the PCB to drive the motor. Why they don't just hardwire things, I don't know. So basically, power is picked up from the track to a copper plate at the back here, and there are two spring-loaded brass pins that are pointing upwards, and they go through the chassis and touch a tiny PCB here. I mean, and what they have to touch is incredibly small. They weren't sitting properly. That was part of my problem. I just don't, it defies logic why they want to do it. They touch the PCB and off the power goes to the various places where it has to go. So I sorted that out. I then found that it was picking up from four wheels. It was a four-wheel pickup locomotive. The pickups on the back axle here were damaged, so they weren't picking up power. So once I'd sorted those two problems out, that was pretty good. So I was making progress, and she started to work something like a proper locomotive. But I had two other issues with her. And I started communicating with, again, Adi Pullin, who had also bought one of these, to see what condition his was in. Fortunately for him, he was all right. I was finding that these two rear wheels underneath the coal bunker were always derailing. Whatever corner she went round, they came off the track, so it made the whole loco unstable. To fix that, I lubricated the axle and untightened the base plate slightly to allow more play. It's not sprung, it just goes from side to side. Not a good design, I don't think. And it seems to have sorted out most of the problem. It's still derailing occasionally. But the biggest problem, and the one I can't fix, is the front axle. It's got terrific play in it, and basically what it is a poorly milled chassis. The axles do have bearings, but the bearings float around in the space allocated for them within the chassis. Now, with the wonders of modern technology, I took a video of this, sent it to Adi. He did the same for his, sent it to me, and his didn't hardly move, whereas mine floats around, up, down, which means that anything over snail's pace, it has a danger of derailing on corners. So basically, I have this loco now running really, really nicely, and it's a lovely loco. I did jump on the bandwagon. I love the die-cast body. In reverse, tender first, she runs fine. In forward, I have to be a little bit careful, the driver has to be a little bit careful, possible derailment. Well, I think that's about it from Kampala-Road this time. Once again, thank you very, very much to the 1,111 people who have pressed that red button. I really appreciate it. When I next come to the UK, we'll be holding a bit of competition so I can send something from the UK, as I said at the beginning. But incredible, so thank you very much, and I hope I can continue to produce things that you enjoy. On my last video of freight runs, I showed my undulating boards, which was quite popular with a freight train. I might try and get a few more of those shots. In the meantime, from Kampala-Road, cheerio for now.